This hangout is live, and so are we. You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network, and we are live. It is episode number 20, and we are live for the first time.
Yes, we are live and in color, and well, some color. You could probably. We're having a few technical difficulties, but we promise we'll have that ironed out by next week's show.
Yeah, I just realized we didn't have the intro music or anything either. This is my fault, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot to do this at the last minute and such. Of course, I'm looking into doing everything live, and of course, it's always at the last minute. So we're gonna have some bumps in the road, but we'll fix it.
We'll fix it. We'll definitely fix it. We may go insane before we fix it, but we'll fix it.
We will fix it at some point. I am Tom Avano, of course, and with me always is Nick Federa.
That's right, folks. You can't get rid of me.
You can't get rid of any of us. Man, I cannot believe we're actually doing this live. So, of course, since we are live, not everybody will, of course, may have seen an episode of the Unspoken Podcast. So just give you a basic rundown. What we are a sports podcast, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network, which is a network of a bunch of different podcasts from the Undetermined. And basically what we do is we're the sports podcast, so we talk about all the happenings in sports. This isn't going to be too much of a full-length episode. It's only going to be like 3 topics. What was that?
It's going to be a bit truncated, but
right.
Just to give you a basic gist of, we give opinions. We're opinion havers, unsolicited or otherwise.
Right. So you can basically call this a sample episode. Basically, for those of you who are new, we are a sample. And yeah, like I said, for the first time ever, I'm saying we're just like Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Oh God, I still have my soul. I'd like to hold on to it though. I don't want to do the full Bill O'Reilly. Oh God.
But yeah, basically.
Without any further delay, let's get right into it then, shall we?
Exactly. Let's just get right into it. So, topic number 1. All rise
for the next media stunt. And okay, context is necessary, right? So
absolutely, that's one of the running gags on this show. Context is necessary.
Yes. So we're both Yankee fans, right? Die hard. Dyed in the wool Yankee fans, bleeding pinstripes. And we both like Aaron Judge, the right fielder for the New York Yankees. He is having a tremendous season by rookie standards, probably the most exciting rookie that they've had in a couple of years, actually, in a while. And the Yankees marketing department decided that he needed his own cheering section. So what they did was, in right field, they created a box, basically, called a cordoned off section of the stadium called the Judge's Chambers, where they made it look like an actual courtroom. And the 80 or so fans that are sitting within the Judge's Chambers all get a robe, a judge's robe, powdered wigs, and gavels that say "All Rise" on them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the Judge's Chamber. So they're completely chosen at random.
Right. I've heard it's 18 fans. They are chosen at random. And then I think this was Meredith from the Yes Network who said later on they're going to give the seats to groups like charity groups, schools. Basically, it would be, for as gifts kind of tickets. All fans would have to return the robe as well as the big, wig that they have to wear.
Yeah, the powdered wig, because God knows you get pulled over by the New York police in a powdered wig and a robe, they're going to ask what kind of drugs you were on.
And then, they get to keep the All Rise gavel.
They do. That's good. That's a good thing. I like foam things.
Right. My brother has a collection of foam fingers.
Still, I mean, at least it's not, normally what you see at Yankee Stadium, which would be the foam middle finger. But I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying. But besides,
I do have a problem with this.
Okay, you want to take it away, so take it away.
The thing is, King Felix has his Felix Hernandez, ace pitcher for the Mariners, has his own cheering section, right? It's called the King Court.
Mm-hmm.
And they only gave that to him after a couple seasons in the league, after which he established himself as a dominant ace pitcher. The fact that you're doing this to Aaron Judge when he's only 3 months really into his first full season, and you're already giving him a cheering section. You're inviting this kid to get a big head. I know he doesn't seem like the kind of person to get a big head, but what if he flames out?
See, where I am with it is I see a double-edged sword to it. I see a good thing about it, and then I see a bad thing about it.
So what's the good thing?
The good thing is I see it's a marketing thing. It's a marketing PR thing. I love the idea of it. How it's the judges' chambers and how the fans get randomly selected or it'll be groups and such. I love the idea of it. The idea of it is cute. It may bring more fans to the game for the chance to, be selected. Then, of course, there's the bad side to it. And the bad side to it is, of course, you saying, what if he gets a big head? And the other thing is, I forget which former Yankee said it, but it was leave the kid alone because not just for the fact that he could get a big head, but it could put all this pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, since he's been up this season and part of last season, he's said all the right things. I mean, he seems like a humble, down to earth guy, which is what you want, what the Yankees want their players to be. And I just don't want this to backfire on them because I see real promise in this kid, and him and Gary Sanchez, and to a lesser extent, Greg Bird, a core that you can build something out of. Not necessarily a championship, but something that could be really, really special. And I don't want to jinx it. That's basically what this comes down to. Right.
I mean, this is like similar to the Yankees of '96, where you had all these little young baby bombers coming up. You had in '96, you had Jeter's first season. You had Pettit. You had Posada, Rivera. All at that time where they were special players. You knew you had something special, but they weren't known as the legends that they were to Yankees fans today.
Yeah, you're right. And they didn't really start to really market these guys, aggressively market these guys until they were at least a little established. And I understand, ticket sales have been down, this year in Yankee Stadium, and I understand the need to put asses in seats. But you run a big risk here, and I just hope it pays off.
Well, that's another thing that I can see is somewhat of a bad thing. I've read a report recently when I say, it could possibly bring more fans into the stadium. It's more of a hope because, let's face it, the Yankees, I also read a report on this recently, I forget where, but it's they have pretty much, the price of their seating is it's more than the average fan can afford at this point, and yet they have no regrets about doing it.
Yeah, I get it. I do. I really do. But you run the risk of big heads, and that happens. I mean, speaking of big heads, not to jump into the next subject, but Odell Beckham Jr. Right?
That's a segue if I ever heard one, Nick.
Yeah, and I'm working on that. Believe me, but For those of you who don't know, right, OTAs were started this week, right?
That's correct. That is correct. Voluntary OTAs started, and Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. was not present.
Everybody else was, but he was not. And he is getting my frosted hair friend is just getting roasted over the coals by New York sports media and ESPN, and just saying, "Oh, how could you not show up?" It's like, how could you, not do this and not do that? And honestly, I have opinions, but I'll let you go first and what you think about it.
Well, I might not know about this as much as you do, but from what I understood was, like you said, he was one of the only ones, if not the only one, to not show up to voluntary OTAs. And at first I'm thinking, okay, you know what? It's voluntary. He doesn't exactly have to come to the practices. Now, should he? I think so. But then I heard reports, and correct me if I am wrong, Nick, but he was hanging out with one Mr. Manziel.
Yes, just when you thought that guy just when you thought he was gone, he just pops up.
I thought we were finally rid of
literally and figuratively the herpes of the NFL.
Oh my god. I need to go back and make a little best of just everything we've ever said ever.
Yeah, well, believe me, there's this whole thing of him, partying with and possibly dating Iggy Azalea while the OTAs were going on, and see,
Iggy Azalea, that's the Australian girl who's trying to act like a rapper, right?
Oh, I haven't heard any of her music, so I can't judge.
Okay. Wait, have you heard Fancy?
About my music than I used to be.
Have you heard
listen to, and I'm okay with that.
Have you heard Fancy though? You remember that song that was the song of the summer 3 years ago?
Yeah, I heard it, and I don't care for it. That's all I can say.
Okay, then good.
All power to her. You want to make music? Go ahead, make music.
Okay, good. Then we share the same opinion. We share the same music interests. We both are classic rock fans. I might be a little more of a modern rock fan on the side.
Yeah, than I am, but I live and let live. But the point here is, I get, it's voluntary OTAs. Like you don't have to show up, and you don't necessarily, you don't need to. And right. If your teammates don't have a problem with it, which they seem not to, not that they would throw him under the bus, but they don't seem to have a problem with it, why should we? The thing is perception. It is as big a part of the makeup of star players in the NFL now than it ever was. Basically because of him, because he's a very visible guy, he's a very telegenic guy, and he's freakishly athletic, right?
ODJ, of course.
Yeah, and full disclosure, we're both Giants fans. I love that frosted tip bastard. I do. I really, really, really do.
He's he's probably the heart and soul of this team.
He is. And I get how much he cares. I do. And I don't think that he would deliberately quit on this team.
Oh, but, by the way, Nick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I guess whoever is running the Undetermined Network right now, the Twitter page, the UD Network, I think this is Nick. He says the cheering sections are for Aaron Judge and the judges' chambers. The cheering sections are all a marketing ploy. It has nothing to do with the excitement of the player. That's his opinion.
That's a valid opinion. No, it's a valid opinion.
Right.
I don't necessarily agree, but valid opinion. But as I was saying, I don't feel like, look, you're trying to dispel this perception among media and other players, like Josh Norman for one, that you're.
Oh God. Okay, I was gonna get to him. Finish your point, and then I gotta talk about Norman. You're
trying to dispel the to dispel the preconception that you are a selfish glory boy player, and I don't subscribe to that label, but you're not really doing a good job of making them see that you're serious, which I have no doubt that you are. And it's not like these sportscasters, especially the crusty old white guys, are any help, because they always use the thuggish behavior, which is really, it's racist code. It's racist code language, but
the term thuggish behavior I hear all over the goddamn NFL.
I know, and what they really mean is, why can't these black players act like more white players? It's fucking racist. It really is.
I see. I could. You know what's funny? It's like you'd say the thug term, yet I could apply it to, at least from the thinking of the perspective of those sportscasters, trying to get into their mindset. I would take those same principles and apply it to Johnny Manziel. I think Johnny Manziel was terrible. First of all, Manziel, here's my story on Manziel. When the kid was a kid and he was in college, his final 2 seasons in college, and there was reports of the partying, I was trying to defend him because it's like, he's a fucking kid. He's trying to live his life. But at the same time, I guess I understood that there was a point to, there's a point where since you're becoming a public figure, since you are entering the NFL, and you're going to become a public figure when you enter the NFL, there's no exception to that. There's a time where the partying has to stop. And for Manziel, the trouble just never freaking ended. And to see Odell Beckham Jr., who has all the potential in the world, hang out with some idiot who threw away all his talent and basically threw away his NFL career, threw away millions of dollars. Nobody wants to touch him anymore unless it's going to be a goddamn publicity stunt, more of a publicity stunt and a marketing ploy than the judges' chambers. I think it's just, it's a shame.
It is, although, you know what, I am inclined because I do believe that he does care. I don't believe that he is a selfish person. Otherwise, his teammates would have a lot more to say about him. Then I'm inclined to say, you know what? You can have all the distractions that you want, but just perform on the field and help this team, and all that can go, and all that will go away. That's all I can say. You don't have to be a choir boy. We're not expecting that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just be the best damn player you can be, and everything else is just gravy.
Fair enough, but then in that case, I'm going to say I'm praying to God Manziel is not an influence on him.
Yeah, I got to say, you're really barking up the wrong tree there, man. Because
that's not who you want to hang out with.
Because if he's your AA counselor, it's like a leopard giving you a facial.
I mean, Manziel is not the kind of guy you want to hang around. Even with the party atmosphere and stuff. I mean, when it comes to a party boy, even though I'm a Patriots hater, I would rather hang out with Gronk than Johnny Manziel.
Cause he's fun. He's a 6-year-old trapped in a man's body. I love that.
I love the likes of Gronk and Mojo Rawley and how they're all the party stuff that they do. Let's face it, we live in freaking Gronk's world sometimes.
Yeah. And he might be an idiot, but he's a well-meaning idiot. He doesn't mean anybody any harm.
And he's one of the best, if not the best, tight end in the NFL.
So you really can't. He loves this game. He loves playing football, and you can't begrudge him that.
Absolutely. I mean, even though I'm a Patriots hater and I'm not a Brady supporter, there are some Patriots from last season that, I enjoyed, and it's like, okay, cool, they have a Super Bowl. One of them, as you said, Gronk. The other was Martellus Bennett. The Bennett brothers are probably the most hilarious things in the NFL.
The most outspoken, too, and God knows I appreciate that.
I've shown you the clip of Tom Brady supposedly getting scared by Bennett, right?
Yep. Yeah, you did.
I mean, I died laughing every time I see that clip, and I just hear Martellus' high-pitched, "Hi, Tom."
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. You need players with personality, and this goes back to the thing with Judge. You need players with personality to put asses in seats and eyeballs on TVs, but at the same time, you need to be, not be a dick to your teammates and show up and do your job.
Should have also mentioned at the start of this podcast, there is going to be foul language included in this podcast, so viewer discretion is advised.
Yes, I really should have said that before I started swearing like a sailor. I do apologize profusely. And
no, but going back, speaking of which, let's go back to the NFL, and we're talking about players and personality. Let's talk about Josh Norman.
Go ahead.
Okay, Norman, he was taunting about Odell Beckham, and we know the bad blood between those two. But then Norman went a step further. Now, I didn't read this fully, but can you tell me why Norman is going after Dez Bryant?
I have no idea.
What did Bryant ever do? Like, this just seems like the Odell Beckham thing. I get, because I get why some people would be mad about his lifestyle and shit, but it's like, and they're bad blood, so they're bad blood, Norman and Beckham, since the end of Beckham's rookie season. But what did Dez Bryant do? I mean, I'm a big Cowboy hater, but at the same time, it's like, Bryant did nothing. You just coming after him because, well, let's face it, that's Josh Norman. He's an aggressive bastard.
He plays for the Redskins, so really, it's a match made in hell.
Right. And Norman went as far as to say, I quote, "There's going to be bad blood in the East this year."
You know what? Let's see if your team can get itself off the scrap heap before you start making those predictions there, pal.
Pretty much.
When your team doesn't want Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, Kirk Cousins, then we'll get to talking.
I mean, as of right now, I think it could be very well the same as last season, with Dallas and New York being the two teams in the NFC East to end up making it to the playoffs, pending if the Giants' offensive line can hold things up.
Yeah. Let's assume for a moment that they will actually have a decent season and not be held together by chewing gum and old Band-Aids.
But yeah, so let's just to conclude the segment, Odell, I won't mind your lifestyle as long as you keep the play up. Please don't let Manziel be an influence on you. He's not the kind of guy you want to, have as your best friend.
Yeah, we know you care, good sir, and we are definitely still fans of you, and we will support. Just go out there and do what you do best, which is see the football, catch the football, and then run with it.
And to all the Giants receivers, let's not have a repeat of the performance from the last playoff game.
Oh, you had to mention that?
Pretty much. Oh, by the way, side note before we move on to our last segment, Victor Cruz, now a Bear.
Yes, he is. They signed him to a 1-year deal. I think made how much are they paying him? I think
it was like a few million, I think.
Which I'm glad he got a job because
right.
I'm gonna miss that guy. I'm gonna miss him terribly because consummate giant. He did everything he went through a mountain of adversity to get back.
He said, he said Giants are still going to be his family for life.
Yeah, and the radio interview he did, we'll get into what he said in a future episode, because we could spend an hour talking, unpacking what he said in the radio interview. But for now, we can just say, good luck, Godspeed.
And I hope you go into the Ring of Honor soon.
Definitely.
You're listening to the Unspoken Podcast on the Unspoken Podcast Network. Nick, let us wrap things up here with our final segment. Let's just briefly talk about we've got some final matchups going on. We got some championships to decide.
Yes, indeedy, we got ourselves Lord Stanley's Cup. Yes.
And it's going to be the Nashville Predators taking on the defending champion Pittsburgh Penguins. And then, just to briefly touch upon it, I don't want to go into it, but for the third year in a row in the NBA Finals, it's the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavs.
Hey, third time's a charm.
I think maybe we can. The only thing I will say about Golden State and Cleveland is if it somehow goes to a 6th and 7th game, I might just tune in just because I want to see, the battle of Steph and LeBron. I feel like at the very least, let this be the last final between these two for a little while, and let's determine who really is the best. Let's see if last year's 3-1 choke was a fluke.
Winner take all.
Right.
But it's gonna be a good matchup regardless. I mean, playoff basketball is an entirely different beast, and I'll tune in regardless because I always do. Even though I really don't have any interest in basketball, playoff basketball is still playoff basketball.
Fair enough. And I mean, LeBron is the best player in the NBA, future Hall of Famer, yada yada. Same with Steph Curry, as long as he doesn't have a big freaking collapse.
Plus, you didn't have Kevin Durant.
That is true. This is the first season of the Warriors where they're actually going to have Kevin Durant in them with the finals. Maybe Durant can finally get a ring.
And boy, is that going to piss off Thunder fans to no end.
We have a friend who's a Thunder fan, right?
Yeah. And she let's just say she took it a little difficult, took it a little hard that he left to go to Golden State. And I can't imagine what she's feeling right now.
I mean, she's probably feeling like what Cleveland felt when LeBron left.
I guess so. I guess.
I mean, I'm still very, like, what the hell is the Cleveland fans after, like, they burned his jersey and stuff, and then 4 years later, it's like, oh, you're back, the Savior's back. That still had me a little like, eh.
Well, they're Cleveland. They grew up. They want hope. Hope is a good thing, Tom.
I know hope is a good thing, but it's like, why did you have to burn his jersey and everything then, instead of hoping that he would come back?
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Canadians fans and PK Subban getting traded.
That's just the general manager being a stupid idiot.
And getting to that point, seeing as how PK Subban is finally leading, it's finally in a Stanley Cup final, got a chance to win his first cup. Freakishly talented dude, one of the best, if not the best player in the NHL. The fact that he's doing it, but not for his hometown team, the team that he actually wanted to play for, has got to feel a little bittersweet to him. Because I'm pretty sure he didn't want to leave the Canadiens.
Oh, no, you're right. What I'm saying is, in this case, when PK Subban, it wasn't a free agency thing. He was traded. It was like, I think it was Nashville's captain for Montreal's captain. Montreal's captain at the time was PK Subban. I don't know if it was Nashville's captain or not, but regardless, it was one of Nashville's best players for PK Subban.
Shea Weber,
that's right. It was Shea Weber. And, like, I remember when that trade happened, I was just, like, posting on social media, like, what the hell? And they were, oh, my God, there were callings for the Canadiens GM to be fired after that.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he hasn't been. Honestly, I'm surprised he still has his job.
I'm surprised, too. I mean, really, like, here's the thing. I feel good for PK Subban. I mean, number one, I do like the Predators and their style a little bit. I'm happy for them. And PK Subban was the only Canadian from that 2014 team that the Rangers faced that I liked. I thought had all the talent in the world. So I'm happy he is on Nashville and was playing that Stanley Cup with them. It's not going to be an easy battle.
No, absolutely not. And you know what? You gotta look at it and tip your captain, not because of the athletic not just because of his athletic abilities, because of his absurd generosity. He donated, I think, $10 million to a children's hospital in Montreal.
What?
And, yes, he did. He did. I heard that yesterday on Outside the Lines. And the racist garbage that he's had to deal with from hockey fans, you feel for the guy. You really do.
See, that's ironic because that's similar to why I didn't like Canadiens fans, because of Game 1 after Game 1 of the 2014 conference final that the Rangers beat the Canadiens in. I remember just all the Canadiens fans on Twitter just going after Martin St. Louis and his mother, who had recently passed. I'm like, that was uncalled for.
Yeah, that was some BS right there.
So I think it's kind of hypocritical for some Canadiens fans who are like, "Oh, you can't be racist to Subban," but then you'll go after somebody's dead mother. That's crossing a big line as well.
Yeah, and it's not like Ranger fans are. We have our moments where we can be exceptionally cruel, or needlessly cruel, but
Podvin knows that well.
Yeah. Even after all these years, he still sucks.
Classic Madison Square Garden tradition.
Yeah, but it's going to be. You don't have to make your picks because it's still going to be going on. The series is probably still going to be going on by the time we get to our next episode, right?
I hope none of these series end. I hope we actually have, a long Stanley Cup, and we have to have a long, NBA final, right? I hope Durant isn't going to make it a sweep over Cleveland.
So just give me, with that in mind, just give me a quick, what you think is going to be the big thing in both these series, in Cavs, Warriors, and Preds, and Penguins.
Well, NBA, now I'm not too knowledgeable on the NBA like you, but here's my big thought, and that's, Golden State is 36-5 at home, Cleveland is actually only a decent road team. They're 20-21. So, first of all, can Cleveland beat, Golden State at Golden State's home in Oracle Arena? Second of all, how will the presence of KD now affect Golden State in terms of a playoff? I mean, last time Cleveland and Golden State faced off, Golden State won 126-91 in mid-January. But like I said, that was mid-January. This is playoff basketball we're talking here. Third of all, keep in mind, Golden State hasn't played in a little while because they've actually gone undefeated in the playoffs as of now. Meanwhile, Cleveland had that one big stumble to Boston last round.
Yeah.
So I think those are going to be the three big points, at least for me, as a, distant NBA fan, we'll say.
Yeah, and as far as the Stanley Cup goes?
Okay, as far as the Stanley Cup goes, number one, how big is Nashville going to put up a fight? Like I said, Nashville has had an incredible run going from fourth in the Central, so I believe they were one of the wild card teams, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a Los Angeles Kings style run where they have gone through the competition so suddenly. It's like, oh my God, Nashville, they could win it. Because as we know in playoffs, especially playoff hockey, it's the team who has the most momentum who most likely will win.
Yeah. It's
Number
about
two,
riding the hot hand. It really is.
Right. It is about riding the hot hand. Number two, I want to look at the health of some of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, Sidney Crosby didn't play in a few playoff games because of a concussion.
Yeah, he basically got his head turned into mashed potatoes, which is its own separate thing. That why is he still in the game, and why didn't the league do anything? But that's an entirely different can of corn.
Keep in mind, like I said, it's Bettman in the NHL. Crosby is their golden child. They want him, all perfect. And I think they said this around the horn. Some of the writers like Jackie. I'm trying to think who else. I think Tim Calishow mentioned it too. Because of that, they're rooting for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, they know where their bread is buttered.
Right. So, with that in mind, if I'm going to give an early prediction, I'm going to give a very early prediction because actually, NHL, the Stanley Cup doesn't start till Monday. But I believe. Wait, when does the NBA Finals start? Oh, wait, it doesn't start till June 1st?
Yeah.
Wow.
It starts on June 1st.
So we're not going to have any playoff sports for a little while.
No, but it's the last week of May, so you won't have to wait that long.
True. No, but I'm just saying. But then again, it is Memorial Day weekend, so.
Yeah, it's a holiday weekend. Nobody's gonna want to, they're gonna be barbecuing or doing whatever. So you really want to capitalize on when they'll be paying attention.
Very true. And let's hope it actually stays nice for a barbecue weather.
Yeah. Well, again, that's an entirely different can of corn. Thank you,
if I have to give a very early prediction, I want to root for Nashville. My mind, though, is saying Pittsburgh. I'm going to give Nashville a little bit of a fight, though. I'm going to go Pittsburgh 6.
I will have to disagree with you there. I will go with Nashville in 6.
Really?
Because like you said, momentum is everything. And
that's true.
I think that they have the talent. They have the talent to pull off a huge upset.
I think they do as well. I'm just hoping that I'm wrong. That's one of the cases where I'm hoping that I'm wrong. But at the same time, it's like, I know, like I said, I think the reason why my mind is there is the NHL. I know there are going to be calls that shouldn't go in Crosby and Pittsburgh's favor that are going to, because that's happened to the Rangers. That's happened to a bunch of NHL teams because Crosby is the golden child. Basically, I'm picking Pittsburgh only because the NHL is going to pick Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you're right. But keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that we are professional crow eaters. That this is none of our picks are binding because we've pretty much been wrong about a good I don't know, more than half of them.
Like I said, this is an early prediction. I think, like you said, we're only next episode. We're only going to be one game into the NBA final. And I think 2 or 3 games into the NHL final. So with that in mind, I just said that's an early prediction. We'll see after game 1 and game 2. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to give my NBA prediction. As much, one part of me is saying, KD is going to make it a different team and Golden State is going to be, Golden State. On the other hand, I so want to ride on them for being, chokers. It's like last year, like we said about last year. It was the double face heel turn. LeBron went in as the villain and left as the hero. Steph Curry went in as the hero, left as the villain.
The villain, more goat.
So I'll tell you this. I will give one guarantee about the NBA. I think it goes 7 games.
Yeah, that I'll have to. It's going to be a war. It's going to be an absolute war of attrition between the two of them, and it's going to be. You are going to see every single ounce of these guys just exhausted, just to beat the other. It's going to be good watching.
Right. At the end of the day, though,
it's going to be.
At the end of the day, God, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what? I think I'm going to delay my pick. I think game 1 will happen the day before we do our next podcast. I think game 1 is going to have an influence on what I pick. Let me see. I want to see how Cleveland does on the road.
I'm probably going to do that as well because I like I said, I've been catastrophically wrong before, and I just want to hedge my bets.
Okay, so we'll wave on the NBA one. That's going to do it for episode number 20 of the Unspoken Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in, everybody.
Yes, thank you very much. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook at the UDUP. And help interact with us. Come see what we've got going.
It's funny how I would always end it with it, and you decided, to do the end of the show spiel.
Well, I've got my hands in so many pies, I'm like an octopus.
So that's gonna do it. I guess I will hum the tune of the Unspoken Podcast now. Do 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 do. Since I don't have the music with me.
We gotta fix that.
Okay. But I'm Tom Alvano, that's Nick Federa. You've been listening to the Unspoken Podcast, part of the Undetermined Podcast Network. We'll see you next week for episode number 21. We got a special segment dedicated to sports gaming next week, so those of you gaming nerds might want to tune in. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you all next week.
Good night, everybody.